This week, Emmet and I are back on the Jack Kirby train and also continuing this year's celebration of 60 years of Black Panther. We'll discuss the first two issues of Kirby's 1977 Panther series, in which we meet a new Kirby character who seems like kind of a clone of an earlier one. And just what is King Solomon's frog? First, as always, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Emmet.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Emmet in Country Victoria, Australia. Good day.
Hello, hello.
So we're continuing to go through Jack Kirby's 70s work, and it ended up that we got to Black Panther just as we're kind of celebrating 60 years of the character. And, of course, we went back and read his first appearance in Fantastic Four, and now we'll get into the 1977 Kirby series. Well, first issue is dated January 77, but apparently it actually came out in October, as these things tend to work. So it's October 76.
Right. Okay.
So
I used to remember that. I used to be very confused by the dates on comic books when I was a kid, because that's not right.
Yeah, well, what I learned many years later was that the date on a magazine or a comic book is the date that the retailers are supposed to take it off the stands.
Right.
It's a freshness date, basically.
Sell by.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you're past the date on the magazine, then now it's stale. You have to return it. Or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so that's why. So date January 77 on the cover, published bi-monthly. It was not a monthly magazine. And this first couple issues, well, we've read two issues and we're planning to get through them in this episode. And they feature King Solomon's frog, which I know that Christopher Priest brought back at some point in his run, like 25 years later. I don't quite remember that story. I'll have to go back and read that again, too. But that's what this story centers around.
I've sort of been throughout this series of Kirby discussions referring to like my early forays into comic criticism, reading comics criticism principally. And my memory is that, so this is all apocryphal. My memory is that there was a lot of snide chatter about Jack Kirby's work, in particular anything he didn't do with Stan. And then his late career work, where it's like, oh, well, he had just left the reservation at that point. You know, it was all nonsense. But so I've talked about this in the past with things like the Eternals, because I remember that there was this distinct sense of, oh, nobody's interested in this. It's too weird.
At Marvel also, I think.
Correct. And we learned some brass tacks about that. Like this was coming from the top. The King Solomon's frog stuff, I remember in particular, was just described, well, that's just nonsense. I remember that this is something, again, we're relying on 20-year-old memory here now. But there was this sense of, well, this is just a bit of flimsy nonsense. I read this first issue, and my immediate takeaway was, this is Mike Mignola's Hellboy. Mike Mignola Hellboy does get associated with The Thing a lot, which is, again, is classic Kirby. Lee Kirby, House of Ideas, Fantastic Four, defining a superhero trope. So that people are happy to compare Hellboy to Thing. But I thought this is much closer to early Hellboy by Mignola. Not just because of the frog aesthetic, which is a big thing with the Hellboy comics, but the sort of clashing together of super science and like biblical era myth, and this idea of obscure sources of power and the sheer weirdness of a small frog time machine feels very in keeping with Mignola and his whole idea of Nazi super science, which again is a very Kirby topic, but the nonsensicalness of those early Hellboy comics, which were the things that everyone, at the same time that I was reading criticism of this being nonsense, people are reading those Mignola Hellboys. I'm actually relying on a 30-year-old memory. I tell a lie. People reading those Hellboy comics and saying, "This is genius. This is great. Nothing's ever been done like this before. Oh my goodness, it's a revelation." So I look at that and I go, the deck was stacked against Kirby. There was this sense of he's past it. You know, he was written off early in the piece, and I keep making the same point. He is due more of an entitlement to an influence, being an influence over the industry than we've given him. We call him the king, but it's like he was the king for a day. I was like, no. His reign lasted for quite some time
after he left comics and started doing animation.
So I just wanted to say that on top. I read this and my immediate thought was Hellboy. Like I see a 1-to-1.
Yeah,
I don't know if Mignola's talked about it, but
entered those kinds of things into the comics bloodstream.
Yeah,
and so other people built on them.
Exactly.
Yeah, within Marvel and DC and elsewhere, even if it was a company he never worked at. So now, Panther is hanging out with this guy called Abner Little. Not Abner Doolittle, mind you. Another Kirby character who had just been introduced 4 months earlier in Captain America. So, and they're both short guys. And at first I thought, is that same guy? But it's a completely different character with a very similar name and very similar look. But different career choices.
Yes. He's on a different axis of the morality spectrum. Yeah.
And we'll get to it as we go through, but I didn't see a good reason for him and Panther to be hanging out together. It's not really clear from this why Panther is traveling around with Abner Little.
Maybe we'll find a Christopher Priest has a whole justification for what was going on. But, I mean, we've encountered this already with Kirby. There's so much of his stuff is in media res. It's so much like, well, that happened, and now we're here. We're not going to bother explaining it. They met, and they made an arrangement, and we don't need to get into it.
Yeah, so, on the very first page, we see Panther and Little entering a room where a guy is holding King Solomon's frog, and this guy is dead.
It's a hell of a first page.
Yeah. And the reason he died was because King Solomon's frog is a one-way time machine, and if you mess with it, it brings something to you from another time, which probably will kill you. And in this case, it's a guy with a big sword who apparently just wants to kill people and doesn't have any other motivations. He ran his sword through this guy. On the 2-page second panel, we can see the guy hiding around the corner. And, boy, these 2 pages were not pieced together very well. The sword goes across the fold, and it's completely broken in the fold. They missed some of the page, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they shrunk it. Maybe there was more.
Yeah, I think that there's a slice in the middle that's just gone out of the artwork. And so Abner Little is a collector. And apparently, from the research I did, that's a proper noun, the collectors. There's a group of guys who are the collectors, who collect things. Although in comics lettering all caps, it's impossible to tell when Panther says "you collectors" that it's a proper noun. Or maybe it's not yet. I'm not sure. But since it's all caps anyway, it would be the same. So Little is explaining some about the frog, and Panther's kind of skeptical of it. That he says the very object he stole became the instrument of his death. And the guy with the sword is coming up behind them. We get his point of view with his sword stretched out in front of him, and Panther and Little with their backs to him. And then he thrusts the sword at Panther, but Panther's Panther sense lets him know, his sharpened instincts let him know that he should duck. So Panther wrestles the guy with the sword, and eventually the guy crashes through a window and escapes. And
but let's look at this. There's 6 panels on that page, and they're all, well, with the exception of the opening panel, arguably, because that's a face-to-face between Doolittle and...
not Doolittle, Little.
Sorry, Little. Apologies. Little, and I was refreshing my memory on who Abner Doolittle was, so I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know who you mean. Little and T'Challa. Every other panel, so 5 panels on this page, is like a peeping Tom, Michael Powell movie, first-person perspective. Here's the murder weapon coming to kill you, and I love it. I love that. That's really great. It's a really great sort of emphasis on the vulnerability, the potential vulnerability of Black Panther, and there's maybe a sense of frustration because he keeps swinging the sword and it's smashing all this furniture and it's stabbing into walls, and the Panther just isn't there whenever the stabbing action is completed. He just avoids it each time. There's something quite funny about that.
And the sword is like cutting furniture in half in that 4th panel.
Yeah.
That's a sharp sword.
Yeah, it is. I think I tell a lie. I think the 1st and the 4th panel are not from the attacker's point of view.
Well, yeah,
the 4th panel is Abner's point of view.
Yeah,
we're switching between Abner and
the 6 panels on this page. Yeah, the first panel is just Abner and Panther, and then the 2nd panel is from the sword guy's point of view, and the 5th panel on the page.
I would make an argument for the 3rd one as well, just for the sake of, I think it's still focusing on him as the actor. I know it's an upgrade. It's not his literal eye line, but I think it's from his space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very near him and Panther. And yeah, the next page we don't really get any exactly from his point of view, although the 2nd panel on that page where Panther's punching him and the guy's feet are in the air in the foreground, that's pretty close to his point of view.
Yeah, it's a really interesting approach, and it does feel cinematic. It feels like almost like Kirby's in the room with him with a handheld camera. Keep going, more action. Don't look at the camera. That's a little Apocalypse Now reference for people, but carry on.
When the sword guy escapes, then Panther and Little are like, meh, police will get him.
Yeah. No, we previously had experience of Kirby time travel rules. You know, your time-ripped antagonist gets maybe an hour to destroy things, and then they will just harmlessly dissipate. That doesn't happen in this case. But like, I did wonder. At the time I was reading, I was going, oh, he's just going to vanish into the time stream like the other Kirby creations when he does time travel.
Let him go. He'll be picked up by the police in short order. He might kill a few people first, but...
Well, I mean, Abner isn't a good person. So, like, this is not his priority. He doesn't care.
Well, I think he's a better person than Abner Doolittle, but that's not saying...
Well, Abner Doolittle was insane.
Okay, that's true. So after that guy is gone, Abner hands him a little. What would you call that little thing that he looks through? It's
It's a monocle. So it's not a monocle. Sorry, it's a
like what you would use to look at a jewel.
yeah, it's a jeweler's tool, or there's little magnifying tool.
And if Panther looks at the frog through that lens, then he can see all this kind of magic or whatever kind of mechanism is powering the frog.
It's like whenever Star Trek writers just wanted to try and explain something in shorthand, they just go, tachyons. It's tachyons. Don't worry about it. It's tachyons. but yeah, it's like this sort of complex chronal machinery within this small statuette.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the moment where I started getting really excited with this comic book, because I was like, oh wow, this is interesting. Like this is some juicy stuff.
But yeah, I see what you're saying, because this is not so much technology as magic from hundreds or thousands of years ago, but we're also getting future stuff in this comic.
Which is it's the whole Arthur C. Clarke line, which we've talked about at length on this podcast before. You know, technology that's sufficiently advanced will look to you like magic, and this is a recurring theme of Kirby's. You know, the gods use technology that people assume is magic. The new gods use technology, but for all intents and purposes, it is magic. And he just keeps using this as a sort of storytelling technique, because these are all still characters. They're not divine. They all have faults and failings, and what they're using is simply tools that you just don't understand yet. And I think that's a really interesting way to tell stories about superhumans while making sure that we still have characters to work with. They're not omnipotent, omniscient, able to do anything. They just happen to have leverage on reality that you don't have. And it's a really interesting approach to storytelling with this genre.
We're told that they called the police about this dead guy, Alfred Queeley, and then they take off in Little's helicopter. So I was a little surprised. It's not even one of Panther's like futuristic Wakanda machines. It's Little's machine. So again, I was kind of like, why Panther here? I mean, we're not really getting any Panther stuff. And the way Kirby writes Panther also, maybe a separate issue, but it sounds, I mean, obviously it doesn't sound like modern Panther, but it doesn't even sound like Stan Lee Panther. Stan Lee Panther is closer to modern Panther than this is. This Black Panther, I think he talks like Jack Kirby.
Yeah, it's Jack Kirby character dialogue 101. It's you know, bit of banter, recap the plot, bit of banter, recap the plot.
I mean, later we got Panther making a pun, which I really can't imagine modern Panther doing.
Modern Panther has some jokes. He's got some jokes. I think Jed McKay has him in the Avengers making some jokes every now and then. Or, yeah, he's still got game, you know.
I mean, I think primarily of Christopher Priest Panther, because that's the one I've read the most, and yeah, that's a very, very serious Panther.
Yes, because Christopher Priest had all the humor coming from the narration of the CIA plant.
Yeah, Ross.
Yeah, just keeps trying to. So it was kind of his version of Panther that we were seeing. So his intimidation. Is maybe coloring how we perceive Panther, which is again an interesting technique, because you have this white guy representing a superpower being introduced to Black Panther, and then immediately he's like, "Oh my god, you're too cool! You're too cool! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! You're terrifying!" Oh my God, there's a devil in my toilet. Oh my God, oh my God. I remember that
Yeah,
page.
yeah, 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 that happened early on. So Little is saying that they need to return the frog to King Solomon's burial chamber because it just creates havoc wherever it goes. But Panther is skeptical that there is such a place that they can return it to. He says that you might as well look for Camelot or the lost Aztec city of gold. But Little is insistent that King Solomon's burial chamber really exists. And then they're approached by a strange aircraft coming after them, and it even has some kind of mouth that opens up to try to take in the helicopter that they're in. But Abner's helicopter has missiles that it shoots and destroys this other ship. So again, we're getting Abner Little tech here, not Panther tech.
True, but also the enemy aircraft, is reminiscent of an airborne creature. So again, you've got that sort of blend of myth and super science, because that mouth, I think, is suggestive of a creature's mouth. So I think the implication is, and we'll see more of this as the story continues, but I think the implication is this is preserved tech from an ancient time, or because, it's in the classic Doctor Who phrase, this is all time wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. Like, it's pulling from all these different periods and mixing them all up.
Yeah, well, and later on we see another thing that you can't tell if it's a machine or a creature. So now that ship is destroyed, and Panther and Little continue on to wherever it is. Little is driving the ship, and now this is really interesting. He talks about how the first thieves to raid King Solomon's tomb found the frog, and one of them was Ali Baba, who brought forth a barbarous creature from another time. The mist that rose from the ensuing massacre lasted for ages, but today the story of Ali Baba and the genie is deemed fit only for children. And we see this kind of genie-looking creature, but looking much meaner than we usually see the genie looking, and it's destroying the town, and everybody's running and screaming like it's Godzilla. So yeah, he's saying that the lamp was really King Solomon's frog, and somehow the genie story has evolved from destroying the town to granting wishes. I'm not quite sure how that works, but
Yeah, or they've tried to change the story to make it less terrifying and insane. The wish being given was actually a way of controlling these creatures, whereas we are being told now there was no control. It was this giant mutant from the future. I think that's the implication here. It's been ripped from the future time, and it just goes on a destructive spree. And then we see a shot of what looks to be Merlin as well, or a Merlin type. So there's all these events. Oh yes, because it's meant to be the Loch Ness monster.
The Loch Ness monster was supposedly brought from the past by King Solomon's frog.
Yeah. So all these events in our history are actually the result of time travel, which again I love. I think that's great.
But I was going to say the genie bit. It kind of feels like the original Grimm's Fairy Tales version where people are dying.
Yes. I always remember, because I don't know if I've told this story before, but I had a French instructor, and they went through the original version of Little Red Riding Hood, that Petit Chapeau Rouge, and the last line, because he relished saying it, the last line of the story is something to the effect of enfin, et lui dévore. So yeah, poor Little Red Riding Hood gets eaten at the end of the original story.
Right, and doesn't get saved by any guy with a knife.
Woodsman or anything. No, there's no woodsman.
Nope.
There's none of that. She meets Grandma's a wolf, the wolf eats her. End of story.
Yeah, the end. Well, yeah, those stories are all like, kids, be careful of dangers out there. We'll scare the crap out of you so that you'll be afraid to go out of the house. Coming up, a visitor from another time. And that's besides 1985 Tina Turner.
Hello, I'm Ken Holzhauser, and if you're looking for something new in comic books, may I recommend my newest comic, The Quick and the Dad, a love letter to the DC, Marvel, Archie, and Harvey comics of my youth. This comic has everything. It has spaceships, dad jokes, alien invasions, time travel, supervillains, and so many bad puns. Hopefully you'll like it. It's the cutest comic you've never heard of, and it's available today in print and digital from indieplanet.com. That's The Quick and the Dad. Join that other dynamic duo, won't you?
Okay, so now they're getting shot at again. This time it's guys with jetpacks. And they want to shoot down the helicopter. So Little's next trick is that the helicopter can switch to supersonic speed, and it zooms away and leaves these jetpack guys in its wake.
He pulls a Vin Diesel from the Fast and Furious movies. We're saying, okay, now I got some nitrous. Let's go. Put the nose on. Let's go.
And they land inside maybe a volcanic pit, like a dead volcano or something. It's mentioned that it's a natural hole in the ground, which Little says is the best kind of cover. And they land and they're walking away from the copter, and then somebody shoots and hits Little. And then we see like these kind of soldier-looking guys. Panther is punching out, and he accuses them of killing Abner Little. And then a woman enters, says, "Stand aside, you fumbling clowns. Must I continually do your work for you?" And she has this weird-looking gun that zaps Panther.
Now, this is going to maybe be a recurring topic because we're talking about Black Panther and we're talking about an African superhero from a fictional African country. And so we're going to be talking about race. This is going to be an aspect of Black Panther which I think always needs to be kept in mind. So I find it interesting that we had a flashback to ancient Baghdad. And because of the vagaries of Marvel coloring standards, it looked like a city full of white people.
Yeah.
What is this, Baghdad 2003? Like there was this. Is this the Green Zone? There was a emphasis on any person, on the standard person depicted is a white person. That is just who people
default.
By default. I find it interesting that all these people Panther is fighting are all typified as black people.
Yeah,
they're all black. They're all their skin color. The emphasis is these are people of color. I find that very interesting because typically Kirby, we've noticed in the past that some Kirby characters where I think he intended for this person to be of different ethnic background, and then they'd be colored white. Like
break out the peach crayons.
Yes. And I always find it so. What is happening? We also encountered it with the early Ditko Spider-Man books. It was like, that's a black person. What is why? Or they would just like have like a blot of ink on the person's face, and it's like, that's a black person. That's pretty bad, guys.
Weirdly colored black people. I'm also thinking of later around. It was like 1979 or 80. There was a story, I think it was in Avengers, where there was a minor character who was just in for a few panels whose dialogue was written to sound like a black person, but they accidentally colored him white. Oh,
dear. Well, the other classic example is I was genuinely taken by surprise in my late adolescence when I discovered the Jubilee from the X-Men was meant to be Asian. I had no idea because they made no effort to actually keep that in mind. And
Yeah, I think
artists
Psylocke is also Asian.
Well, okay. I wish you hadn't said that, Tim, because no, she isn't. She is a white British woman who's been put into an Asian woman's body.
Okay.
It is very weird, and I don't know what Chris Claremont was trying to say, and has created this whole farrago of storytelling. Because in the last 10 years, they've actually separated Psylocke the body and Psylocke the personality into two separate characters, and now Betsy Braddock, Psylocke of the original Psylocke, is once again a British woman with purple hair, and now you have
purple hair.
Another character. Well, she had purple hair. Alan Moore gave her purple hair in Captain Britain. This is a whole thing, Tim.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting off topic here accidentally.
The racial fetishization of Psylocke is one of the strangest things that happen in the X-Men comics. You could write a college paper on it. It genuinely is the weird comic book Orientalism of our time. It makes no sense. But anyway, Jim Lee got to draw some bikini art. Carry on, Tim.
Okay. So the woman who was shooting at Panther is Princess Xanda. Princess of what? I have no idea. Is this from another planet, a country, on Earth, someplace else? I don't know. Future, past, present. I guess present. The present.
She's giving
of the comic.
Tina Turner in Mad Max at Thunderdome.
Well, yeah, you're starting to think, the makers of Mad Max were reading these comics.
Absolutely. Like I will once again bring back my old feature. Who read what? Did this come from this?
What else that you thought was original was actually invented by Kirby?
George Miller definitely read comic books. We know that. We know he reads comic books. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was on the inspiration board for Tina's character.
Yeah. All you need is Princess Xanda singing "We Don't Need Another Hero."
Yes.
I'm here for that. Anyway, so Panther is knocked out. And one of the soldiers hands the frog to Princess Xanda. And one of the other guys says, "Mr. Little is dead, mistress. Shall we finish the Black Panther as well?" And another one says, "No, you fool. The princess has need of him for her plans."
Oh, thank goodness.
Otherwise, what are we going to do? This is issue 1 and the character's dead. Well,
the story can't happen.
I mean, I guess it kind of worked out with the movies when the actor died, but
I don't know. Tim,
not really. I mean, I enjoyed Panther 1 a lot more than Panther 2, but anyway.
I need to revisit that second movie because I have gone back to Black Panther. I think Black Panther, the movie, improves, actually. I think it gets better as I've watched it. I've enjoyed revisiting it. Black Panther, Welcome to Wakanda. Was that what it was called? Or was it Welcome to Wakanda, a separate project again?
I don't remember.
I had a hard time with that movie because it just felt uncomfortable watching them having to improvise a plot around the death of Chadwick Boseman. Like I still felt as if there's a hole in that movie, which I think the movie tries to use in terms of the characters are all grieving, but in terms of A to B plotting, I was a little lost with that film. It seemed all over the shop. But maybe it improves now that I know I've got to sit through endless negotiations and appearances from, was it the evil French? Or the French, the villains?
This would be a good year to do it because we're focusing on a lot of Black Panther stuff this year anyway, the 60th anniversary. So, after we finish these 12 issues, which at this rate is going to take us like 12 episodes, I think. Okay, now this is the only clue that we get to why Panther and Little were hanging out, because Princess Xanda says, idiot, do you think that Little's goal was any different than mine? He wanted the control code that will regulate the forces in this artifact. Once you'd found it, Mr. Little would have killed you. So she thinks that Little wanted Panther to help him find this control code to regulate the frog. What that would entail, I have no idea. How Panther could help, I have no idea. That's the only kind of vague clue we get. Now they're shooting at Panther again. Panther knocks the frog out of her hands and catches it in midair. But then one of the soldiers blasts it out of his hand, and that causes it to activate. And we at the bottom of this page, we get like something is appearing, but you have to turn the page to find out what or who it is. And on the last page of the issue, we've got this alien-looking guy with a huge cranium with Hatch 22 written on his forehead. And he's saying, "What are you? Speak or die." And Panther says, "By the great lion, the brass frogs hit the jackpot this time." Yeah, say brass frog 3 times fast.
Brass frog, brass frog, brass frog. The words have lost all meaning. You're right. He's doing a bit of almost Spider-Man-esque joshing there on the last page.
You hit the jackpot. Yeah, it's like Mary Jane. Mary Jane's a lot better looking than this guy, though.
He looks like the alien at the end credits for Star Trek. Remember, there was the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you see that guy's face, and I was going, what episode is that? Who is that guy? I never saw it.
Yeah, I did see that episode. I remember what that was. I don't remember the name of it, but...
He does eventually turn up.
Yes.
If you're a Batman 66 viewer, you're familiar with the recap that opens the second part of an arc. As Paul and I have examined first draft scripts, we've noticed that these are often completely rewritten from draft script to final. But why was this the case? This month on our Patreon show Bat Bits, we'll try to answer that and also welcome novelist Nancy Northcott back to our Bat podcasting world to discuss the portrayal of women in Batman Season 3. Get access to Bat Bits by supporting our Patreon at $2 a month. At $4 a month, you also get our monthly show Silver Age Batman, where we're looking at many of the wacky Batman stories from the 50s. This month, Patrick and I look at a significant story that was retconned in the 80s, Detective Comics 226, in which it's revealed that the original Robin was one Bruce Wayne. Also at the $4 level, you can still access our past series that covered the first 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man and more. Follow our Patreon for free and get access to the first 2 episodes of both Bat Bits and Silver Age Batman. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics, and thanks for your support.
So, issue 2, let's forge on here, try to get through the second issue, titled The 6 Million Year Man. Of course, a reference to the $6 Million Man, which was a TV show in the 70s. Okay, on the cover, the alien is shooting something from his forehead at Panther. Panther's in the foreground there. And, oh, there's Abner Little. He's alive on the cover. Huh? Spoiler alert, Kirby. So on the splash page, Panther says, "Look out, that strange creature is about to oof." And is that one of the soldiers there saying ugh? And I guess this is the point of view of the alien. Well, not exactly an alien, but the being who's been brought forth by the frog. Panther is being pushed away from us. And then we got another one of these 2-page panels. This one, there's not so much missing from the fold on this one. Although there's some color disagreement, strangely. The soldier in the foreground on the right side, his belt is red, and on the left side, it's yellow. There's just a line through there between where the fold would be between the red part and the yellow part. But they recolor these, I know, because they have to, because they can't get the original printing plate. So that's probably the mistake of the recolorer. And yeah, this Hatch 22 guy is able to toss everybody around the room, as Panther says, like marionettes. And the guy says, "Mindless creatures, you have removed me from the hatch. I must return to the hatch. I belong to the 6th era of man. I cannot remain here." And one of the soldiers tries to shoot at him from behind and thinks he'll need a third eye to spot me before I nail him. Guess what? He has a third eye in the back of his head, just like my kindergarten teacher. Claimed to. And
this is genuinely funny.
This eye in the back of his head emits a beam of deadly microns. Microns, still undiscovered in the 20th century, have a shattering effect on the human structure. They destroy its atomic cohesion, and we see the soldier starting to disintegrate. Zrap. Atoms quickly lose their orderly balance. They fly apart. They stream out into the atmosphere. That is why the gunman suddenly fades from sight, vanishing completely.
That is too much exposition. That is too much exposition. We don't need makey-uppy lecture on makey-uppy science in the future.
That's the Star Trek approach.
Or maybe some kid read it in the 70s and decided they were inspired to, enter NASA someday. I don't know. But, I genuinely read that and I go, this is nonsense.
So Panther approaches on his hands and knees as kind of a way to not appear dangerous, I guess. And Panther claims that we do push-ups here. It's a sign of friendship and servility. And the Hatch 22 guy says, "That's extremely interesting. Very clever for one so limited. You'd make a fine pet. I'll take you with me when I return to my hatch in the 6th era of man." Panther says, thank you. I'd be pleased as punch," and then punches him. There's the pun I was talking about. The punch. The pun, yeah. Which just, it sounded like, that doesn't sound like Panther at all. And then he claims that he doesn't usually like to use deception, which I think Priest Panther definitely does. But anyway, his punch has knocked the guy out. And he says, yeah, this is somebody who's been brought here from the future, the 6th era, whenever that is. And the princess wants to shoot the guy dead. And Panther's saying, no, it's not his fault. He didn't want to come here. It was your fault that he got brought here with the frog. And we need to find some way to return him to his time. So they find the frog on the floor. Panther says, what does she say? Oh, it's mine. He says, "An arrogant presumption, Princess Xanda. This rightfully belongs to the ancient burial chamber of King Solomon from which it was stolen." Now he completely believes in the ancient burial chamber of King Solomon. "Collectors have fought for it and died for their pains. That shall be your fate if you don't hand it over," she says. But he explains it's a time machine, and I guess it's been brought up previously. We skipped over it. But there's a second frog that will undo what the first frog does and send people back to their original time. So they need to find the other frog. And Panther takes his mask off, and Princess Xanda's like, "Hubba, hubba." "Handsome indeed. You've aroused my interest," she says. And Mr. Little's still lying on the floor there. Panther says, "Poor Mr. Little. He was a clever gentleman, but he made the mistake of competing with you for possession of the brass frog." But then, as he touches Mr. Little's chest, he realizes that there's a hard surface underneath the shirt. And actually, he's not dead. He was just, the wind was knocked out of him by the bullet. Okay. And just knocked him unconscious, I guess. Does that happen?
It's like Wendy and Peter Pan, when Tinkerbell has one of the Lost Boys try to kill her. And she's got the little kiss on her person, which stops the arrow. Yeah, he's like, oh, he had a case of the vapors.
The vapors. Yeah, an armored vest under his shirt. And he wakes up and puts his shirt and stuff back on. His monocle was knocked out somewhere. Somehow didn't get stepped on in the fight, the monocle. And so then they need to get Abner caught up on what's been happening. Well, some of that, I guess, is not quite yet, but Panther's saying that we and Xander are going to have to join forces to deal with this problem. And then the room is filled with Kirby crackle. And Mr. Little says, I've seen effects like this before used by mediums at seances. It's ectoplasm. Panther says, ectoplasm, material of the mind, and who could be more mental than our visitor from the future? And so they see these visions projected by Hatch 22 guy of this far future where the moon is much closer to the Earth, and Earth seems to be much closer to the sun. And the Earth, if it is Earth, now you can't see any of the countries or oceans or anything. You just see a pattern of these circles with links between them. And Panther realizes that humanity has moved underground in this age because it's too hot on the surface now. And within these circles, there are smaller circles that are like communities, and each one is a hatch. And so they see Hatch 22, it kind of rises out like an elevator out to the surface. And then they see, mentioned before, another creature, machine, vehicle. It's hard to tell what it is, but it's shooting rays at the Earth. And Hatch 22 guy comes up from the Earth and is battling against this attacker, shooting a beam from his forehead. And then, yeah, the attacker explodes. Hatch 22 guy beats him, it, whatever it is. Yeah, somewhere around here was when he mentions to Mr. Little that the Hatch 22 guy can disintegrate them. But
there's a novel by William Hope Hodgson, The Nightlands, which I think might have been an influence on this. Again, or far, far future. Humanity's gone underground. There's these sort of like pyramid-like structures, and then there's these vast creatures roaming the surface, and they're far too dangerous to encounter. And the only way to defeat them is by marshalling sort of psychic energy to fight them back. So I do wonder if Kirby read that book, because it would have been serialized in some of the fantasy anthologies back in the day. So there's a possibility he read it, or read something by somebody else who'd read it.
Yeah, these ideas just seem to get passed along.
Yeah.
So what they've been seeing is Hatch 22 guy's dreams that were projected out of his body, out of his brain. And he starts to wake up, and so they're concerned that he's going to attack them. But Mr. Little is able to shoot him with a dart gun that injects a chemical that diffuses the thought processes for precisely 24 hours. In in 24 hours and 1 minute, then he's going to be at their throats again. So they've got to figure this out in the next day. And this is where he mentions the disintegrator. And for some reason, Panther picks up Little. I mean, yeah, he's short like a kid, but why would you pick up an adult little person like that? And of course, Little says, "Put me down." So Panther's got to kind of herd the cats here and get Little and Xanda to work together with him to solve this problem. And
Tim, was that a pun?
No, I guess I wasn't thinking of Panther there. Just that, Little and Xanda really don't want to work together.
No, they don't.
Yeah, so...
And I kind of dislike that Xanda turns into the sort of Kirby woman character almost immediately. Like, oh, you're so interesting. And then she's just sort of passively going along with things. Maybe she'll snipe occasionally, but like it's a lot like Donna Marie in the Captain America, where she was this interesting character, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, Captain America, you're so handsome. What should I do? It's frustrating because like he has these interesting characters and then they just become sort of besotted with the male character, and then we are where we are.
Yeah. All right, and the issue ends as Little reveals another of his devices. He's got the multiplane, a supersonic wonder, and so I guess they're going to fly off in this to try to find the other frog.
Yes, the burial chamber.
Yeah, she says, getting to King Solomon's burial chamber is only half the job. Our visitor may finish us off before our job is done.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed this. Like, I'm really loving this story. It's just shenanigans and weird science, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's just kind of... takes some getting used to when you're used to modern Panther or even Fantastic Four in 1966 Panther. This Panther seems a little different, but
as we discussed, like the end of that issue, there was this sort of pretense on the Panther's part of, oh no, what am I to do? Now that I've had vengeance, what can I do with my life? And the Fantastic Four, you could be a superhero. It's like, oh, a superhero. What a capital idea. And years later, Priest is going to tell us, no, that was all a yarn. That was all him like playing a character. This is a long game. He was an infiltrate America's superhero community because they are a actual national threat to Wakanda. Security risk, and here we have him maybe doing some deep background improv character, like I guess I'll just join this heist and neutralize this fucking time machine. which these thief collectors are fighting over and unleashing all sorts of baddies into our present time. I'm basically choosing to interpret all of the times when Panther seems to act out of character as he's playing a character.
Yeah. Okay, well, we made it through these two issues, so we'll be back in a few weeks with a couple more.
Black Panther by Jack Kirby, Volume 1, is published by Marvel. Follow us on Blue Sky at Decon Comics. Join our Facebook page or the more active group. Listen to our audio-only videos on YouTube. All of those are linked from deconstructingcomics.com, as is our voicemail. You can communicate with us via social media or drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com. And, of course, we'd love it if you shared episodes with your friends and left us a review in Apple Podcasts or other podcast outlets. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. On February 27th, artist and colorist Tatiana Wood died at age 99. Some of her most well-known work is from Alan Moore's 1980s run on Swamp Thing. Back in 2012, Kumar and I discussed issues 21 through 37 of that run, and we'll present that show again next week as a flashback episode. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.